Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to House of Footy. It's your boy Ray, and tonight I've got a full house with me. Welcome, Mac
Good evening.
and Gio.
What is good, guys?
Today we'll be doing a Premier League Player of the Season draft. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow us on our social media, both on X and Instagram. Our handle is at @house_of_footy. Also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to us. We are on both Spotify and YouTube. And lastly, feel free to get in touch with us via email. We love hearing from you guys, and we want you guys getting involved. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. So I'm going to toss it to Mac here. Mac can walk us through what the process will be like for this podcast.
Gotcha. So, in essence, it's going to be a snake draft going from pick 15 to 1. The twist of this draft is that there will be vetoes. For example, if I have the 15th pick and I take Jorginho, which will not happen, that means my fellow draft managers will have the option to veto my pick, which basically puts Jorginho back in the pool of players to potentially be taken later if need be. And then what this makes us fun is that we're going to be doing our best to put our faves on the list. At the same time, trying to corroborate and make a ideal list that's representative of what the best player in the Premier League has been for the season of 23-24. But in essence, any questions before we get started, aside from that, gentlemen?
How many Man City players do you guys have?
I'm
joking.
We can't do this. This ain't no treble winning team. We don't have to put that high. But to find out what draft orders there'll be, just to be able to clarify, there'll be, of course, there's 3 hosts, 3 drafters. So drafter A, B, and C. Drafter A will get pick 13, 12, 7, 6, and then 1, because they really, at that point, I think we'll all be on the same page on who that final pick would be. They get the positive side of getting 2 vetoes. Whereas the other 2 drafters, well, again, drafter B will have 1 veto, have pick 14, 11, 8, 5, and 2. And drafter C will have pick 15, 10, 9, 4, and 3, with then, again, 1 veto there. But to find out the draft order, what I've done is I have a random number generator. And I think is age before beauty. We'll start off, I will be number 1, Gio will be number 2, and Ray will be number 3. So I'm going to click. This is not a Dominion voting machine. This is a very impartial machine that I have in front of me, so don't worry. So as a number generator, who will get the first choice of which draft spot they want? Generate, and it's number 1. That's me. Oh, gentlemen. Okay. What I don't want is pick 15. Bum that. I'm going to take drafter B slot. Now I'm going to keep rolling until I get 2 or 3, and then you'll get the other decision. And I got 3, which is Ray. Ray, do you want drafter C or drafter A spot? And
Dang.
whatever's left over, Gio, you get. I'm sorry. The game's the game.
I have to go with drafter C. I am so sorry, Gio. I have to give you that one, unfortunately.
If I recall correctly, Gio was drafter A the last time we did this because he was vicious with the vetoes when he's needed to be. So I think we might actually have the same draft order as last time, if I recall correctly.
Did we?
No, I think I had drafters. Anyway,
We can switch it up. If that's the case.
Point. But what that does mean is, what's the NBA? Dun, 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 you know what I'm talking about? Like what the drafter C's on the board. You're up. Draft pick 15. Ray, give us the first pick. 15.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest. Towards the top of this draft, so like the 15th player, I have a couple of players in mind that could be the best players on their team, but probably not from the top 6 clubs in the Premier League. And actually, there's 2 players from this club, and this is West Ham, and I'm trying to pick between these 2 players, which one is going to be my pick for the 15th best player of the season. Maybe it's his bicycle kick that puts me over the edge for this one. I'm gonna lean slightly for Mohamed Kudus for my 15th spot choice for this one. So it's been a decent season for him. 23 years old, 33 matches, 8 goals, 6 assists in the Premier League. We have a couple of goals here as well in the Europa League. Can't really complain about his season. Of course, he would have wanted a better season. Maybe he's on for a move to a bigger club, which maybe in coming seasons will be higher in our draft in our future drafts, but really, it's his game speaks for itself on his day. A world beater and one of the best players in the Premier League, I would say, just like that. Mohamed Kudus is going to be my 15th choice.
Wow.
It's a great pick. I don't think he would have made my 15, but he was definitely within arm's reach of my 15. So I'm happy with that pick. Also, again, I think you perfectly highlighted it. He's a player that a lot of eyes will be on him with this coming summer. Is there going to be moved? Is there not going to be moved? Very excited to see his future, and definitely had a great first season in the Premier League. Gio, what are your thoughts about Mohamed Kudus?
I think for those who watch us on YouTube, obviously you may have seen my reaction. Not because we think bicycle kick, a great volley. Gio's a United fan. He should probably thought it was Garnacho. No, I don't think there are many United players, if any, United players on here. But I reacted that way because we had the same 15. Mohamed Kudus was definitely my 15th pick, and I couldn't be happier that the first person said him, so I didn't have to use him. So perfect. I love it.
Hey, and he got that fantastic celebration that he's going to try to replicate, I think, many more times. So we'll see what happens there.
Yep.
Lovely. So that puts it to me for the number 14th pick, if I have this correct, which I'm very excited about. I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous you may have this individual higher. And this is, again, not a infamous John Stone situation, I promise you. I really think this player has brought a lot of quality. He's actually a former Liverpool player, had his best season in the Premier League. And he is my only player in the top 14 that didn't finish in the top half of the table. And that's Dominic Solanke. I'm picking him here. I definitely think that even though he wasn't on the greatest team, if you look at the full course of the year, there was a large section. If you look at from January 1st up until right before the final 3 games of the season, because they did lose 3 games in a row, Bournemouth did, they're actually a top 6 team within that time period. And I think he was a large driving force of it. And again, I'm not picking him just because he has the famous anime celebrations, Toby, the Lost celebrations, One Piece Naruto fans out there, I'm sure you know. Even though that does help and influence him. But the biggest part for me is where if you look at the most valuable part, and when we talk about most valuable, we may be looking at maybe a Cole Palmer, or maybe a Phil Foden or Bukayo Saka. But I would argue Solanke, if you take away his goals from Bournemouth, they're close to relegation because he scored 35% of his team's goals in the Premier League. In comparison, Erling Haaland with 27 goals only scored like 28%. Cole Palmer, who had also 22 goals, only scored 28% of his team's goals. So without Solanke, I think Bournemouth are not just maybe they're on, even though this year is probably one of the easiest years to get out of relegation, as we saw, they are definitely in that conversation if they didn't have him.
Honestly, I'm not mad at that at all. I had him also in my 15. Wasn't really set on his position, but great shout there. It has to be said that he is, again, like you said, Mike, going to be a lot of eyes on him if there's a top half of the table team looking for a striker and rejuvenate that spot in their offense. Gio, I know that you have probably some kind words for him as well. So reaching his prime, maybe a big move is ahead of him in the future.
No, I definitely agree. It's a good spot. He's in and around that area. I did have him in and around that area as well. In previous podcasts, if the viewers remember or the listeners remember, I was bigging him up to hopefully do some damage against these bigger clubs, which he has knowingly has done so. So I think he's kind of grew into his own after, starting off at these very big clubs at a very young age, going to Bournemouth and really honing his own skills and being his own type of player, which does take time and some players take longer than others. And it seems like he's finding his stride, especially in the Prem. So yeah, I would actually wish he would be a part of the Tottenham squad as opposed to Richarlison. I think is a much better fit for them. Much better fit. Hey, that's just a shout. I think they would love to have him instead of Richarlison as well. I loved him at that spot. It's like I'm not mad at it at all.
Can't disagree.
Okay, no, Gio, it's your pick.
Okay, so Similar to Mac's pick, it's the lower half of the table that isn't in the top 10. Let me just double check so you guys don't flame me. Just makes the top 10 of the Premier League table. It is Michael Elise. I know you're not going to have him on your boards, but again, if we're using the argument that you have used for Dominic Solanke, I think you can use the same arguments here for Michael Elise. I think his presence brings the team to a much higher level. Obviously, him and Eze, that combo that the whole Premier League, the whole world is eyeing for a move. I think his presence on and off the field is very much felt, and without him, I don't think they finish within the top 10, especially in the latter half of the season where they're making that push and had several strings of great games. It was much to his doing. So if we're going to give Dominic Solanke that argument, we can definitely give Michael Elise the same argument.
I would not be upset about any of those front two from Crystal Palace. I do think it's a little bit more of a recency bias for that as well because of how well Crystal Palace finished the season. But I can't be mad either one of Eze or Elise. The fact that they were so influential towards the end of the season, like you said, brought them up to the top half of the table.
Considering where they were to start the season,
That's right.
Very shaky. Roy Hodgson. Come on, guys. He was battling from within the club. So, no, I think he deserves to be there. Whether you guys think he should, maybe you guys want to use your veto. Go ahead.
You guys teasing us with the veto. So I'm itching a little bit. I got a veto in my pocket. It is burning a hole. I would worry about just minutes. How impactful? Again, I agree. Quality of player wise, I could definitely make that argument. I don't think I'll use the veto. I want to save it for later, just in case if there's a Bruno Fernandes in a top 5 pick like Ray did last year. I'm very worried about that. I'm very stressed about that. But was he on my 15? No. But I really like him as a player, so I'll take it. It's okay.
Okay, I think then with that being said, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back with a couple sets of picks after that, and then we'll go on from there. So let's stay with us, guys. Welcome back to Hustle Footy, guys. We are going to continue now with our 12th pick. I'm going to toss it back to Gio. Gio, with your 12th pick, who are you selecting?
For my 12th pick, I just want to tease you guys to use your vetoes early. Or maybe he does deserve to be here, but in my eyes, I think he deserves to be here. But I know we vary in soccer opinions. So with my 12th spot, I would like to give this spot to a deserving player named Anthony Gordon. I think is a fair spot. I think the consistency that he's served for Newcastle, evidently so, has earned himself a spot on the Euros squad for Southgate. Again, yes, he was injured early, but the consistency throughout the season, his attacking threat, his scoring while Isaac was out, I think was huge for Newcastle. Although they didn't have the season that we kind of expected him to one up the past, I think he is very deserving of the spot.
Right, are you going to veto that?
Go veto it.
I'll let you cook.
Gio,
I'll let you cook.
No. I don't want to. I don't care that much. I'm just curious. For me, Gio, I love the player. Love the player. For me, he's clearly the second best player in the attacking threat for Newcastle. And I only had spot for one of them on my list. So that's fine. I won't take Isaac. He's not going to be part of my 15. There's just too many other good players around him. It's unfortunate. Is what it is. But again, that's fair. I'm going to say my veto.
He was in my 15. He was in my 15.
Over Isaac?
He was with Isaac in my 15.
Okay.
So
yes,
I definitely cannot.
Definitely.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. Double digits in terms of goals and assists. First full season at Newcastle. We just talked about Olise, how impactful he is. Gordon as well, getting called up for England. He makes a case for sure as one of the best players this season in the Premier League. So, Mac, I'm not going to use my veto, so it's up to you for pick 11, I think.
That's fine. I won't be drafting Isaac. One of you guys will pick him later, and I'll veto that. That's fine. I think it'll be interesting. I think at the end of the podcast, what we can do is make a list of players that did make our 15 that just didn't make the list. I think that would be interesting. But I have to go. I'm actually going to go a little bit deeper down on my list. Who I had ranked as 12th, actually, my 12th, where I'll be taking 11th, is William Saliba. He played every minute in the Premier League for Arsenal this year. The best defender on the best defensive team this year. Again, for me, I think let's say if Arsenal did go on to win the Premier League, I think it's tougher as a centre half to be able to make that argument that you're in, let's say, the top 5 players. And even this year, I think given how good the quality of players around him, he probably had an easier job. So he's not my only defender, I'd say, to make this high up on the list for myself. But like I said, he is, in the next 5 years, I think if you ask me who the next best center back in the world would be, it would be him. I don't think he's really scraped the full surface of his potential yet, which is saying a lot, because I would argue right now he's the second best center back in the Premier League as of current date. But again, I'll take him here. Happy to do so.
That is, I'm debating to use my veto here because that is an extremely low or high pick, because I had him a lot lower in my draft, actually in close to the top 6, top 7 picks. I'm curious, Mac, do you have any other defenders from Arsenal in or
no.
any other?
No other defenders from Arsenal.
Okay,
This is my one defender from Arsenal. I have a lot of other attackers and from quite a few different teams still on the board. And there's only one other. I only had 3 defenders on my list. He was one of them. I will not be drafting another, and another one will be taken.
He was the only defender on my list as well. I had him higher, so I'll put that on the record. I have a half a mind to put my veto in so that I can pick him higher because of how impactful he was. So I guess I'll just cook here. Like Mac just said, played all the games for Arsenal, all 38 games I think he started for sure, and just proved how well the best defense in the Premier League. He proved to be the best defender on the best defense in the Premier League this season. That in itself has earned him his praise, and I think definitely does not need to be underplayed how good he's been this season and how good he will be in further seasons. So that's my little piece there. Unless you have anything else, Gio.
Absolutely shocked Mac had him that low. Below the top 10 is quite shocking coming from, where his allegiance lies. Shocking. But no, I think he definitely deserves to be higher. So
Well, there's someone else that said he wanted to use his veto.
He was debating. He might not do it.
Oh, okay. So let's see what he debates, and then we'll see where he goes from there.
Okay. Mr. Ray, are you using your veto or not?
So if I use my veto, does that mean that you get to choose another player in this spot?
I have to choose somebody else. I have to choose somebody else to fill that spot, but I can't obviously pick Saliba.
I'm gonna have to use my veto here. I just think that much of him that even though he's only my only defender in the top 15 of my draft, I really had him 1, 2, 3, 4. I actually had him 5th in my list. So that's how impactful he was. I'm gonna have to use my veto here. So choose someone else, Mac.
Okay, I'm gonna stick with the Arsenal trend here, and I'm gonna pick Martin Odegaard. Simply enough. For me, he was the second best midfielder for Arsenal this year in regards to their attacking threat of what connects them from offense to defense. He's kind of the straw that stirs the drink. He is the playmaker. He is the pup master. It's between him and Saka where I think majority of chance creation comes from Arsenal, and Odegaard is the one that initiated all of it, as well as I think if you ask me, aside from the Man City team, we can do the Kevin De Bruyne or the Phil Foden. If you ask me who the next best creative midfielder in the Premier League is, it is Martin Odegaard. I think if you slot him on any team, he instantly makes your team better in all aspects, as well as being a leader that you want to be able to play with. In terms of being able to initiate the press, putting that extra shift in, making that work ethic that a lot of other players in his position, you could argue, don't bring to the table. So I think he is a complete footballer and one of the most, I would still argue, underrated players in the Premier League, given what his role for his team of what he has to do, and as well as he done it. I think statistically this year didn't have the best, only 8 goals, 10 assists in the Premier League. Not the greatest, but the impact he has, I think, is monumental. So for me, in the 10th spot, I will now select Martin Odegaard.
Okay, I actually had him there as well for me, so I'm good. Unless Joe, you have anything else, I'm gonna go with my pick as well.
Yeah, keep him there. Go ahead, Ray.
All right, so I'm not sure if I'm baiting. I might be baiting here, just because I have to. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have any Liverpool players on your top 15. I was really debating on who I would pick. I just have to go with one because I have to, and that's of course probably arguably the best Liverpool player to put on the shirt. Mohamed Salah. I'd have to pick him at this spot here, 10th, just because he had a tremendous start to the season. I would say, of course, we know how it fell off for him and for Liverpool as well. Ultimately, how it fell off, but 18 goals, 10 assists, just a goal short of last season's tally, and 2 assists fewer. Still, though, on his day, we know that he has the quality, and just by itself, there, I have to choose him. Maybe I'm baiting for someone to use a veto here, but I'm just gonna have to select my Liverpool player, Mohamed Salah.
I have 2 Liverpool players on my list, to be honest. And for me, I had Salah 1, 2, 3, 4. I had him 8th, and the other Liverpool player 9th. So again, it's not a horrible shot for me. I really enjoyed Mohamed Salah this year. I think if you take his goals away and his evolution as a player from Liverpool, and the attacking third, Jota's was injured a lot this year. You don't really know what to get from Nunez and Gakpo. So I'm very curious to see their evolution of if he does if he does leave Liverpool, who kind of fills that role, because I think they're going to be bereft of attacking options and a consistent goal threat. And we saw him evolve as a playmaker a lot more this year than he has done in previous seasons. So again, for me, I don't know necessarily agree with you as the best Liverpool player of all time. Maybe that's just my nostalgia sticking in, but. For me, still a quality player, one of their best. Still, and I would argue the best Liverpool player this season. But unfortunately, just because he never really conceded into anything, wasn't really in the title race by the end of the season, wasn't really in the Golden Boot due to injury after a Cup of Nations, stuff like that kept him out of it. But I'm so glad that he's on the board.
Okay, Gio, if there's nothing else on your end, if you're not vetoing that, I'm gonna move on to my next pick.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
So Salah, we know he comes from he's Egyptian, comes from a warmer part of the country of the world. But we're actually gonna go to a cold part of the world. Well, not necessarily cold part of the world, but a cold player, and that's of course none other than Cole Palmer from Cole Palmer FC. 22 goals, 11 assists, speaks for itself. Definitely one of the signings of the season. You'd argue, definitely for sure, Chelsea's, considering the money they spent over the last couple windows. Really, that's all I have to say. Cole Palmer is going to have to go as my 9th pick. Any comments there, Gio, on that pick?
Had him higher, I'm not going to lie. Love what he did for Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea was looking outside the Prem to make those signings and to make those impact signings. Of course, apart from Caicedo, but your problem, the answer to your problems was so close to home. And Cole Palmer really just, again, people say will argue, a lot of the goals are from the penalty spot, yada yada, this, that, and the fourth. But hey, you still have to go out and take those. Those aren't automatic goals for you. You still have to be very clinical. And I think, from a very young age, his father said, forget the bodybuilding, learn your technical skills, and you'll be one of the best players. Your body will grow with you as you grow. And it goes to show that it worked, because he focused a lot on his technical skills, and we see how technical he is. And working under Pep, he's added a lot of that more into his game. But I definitely had him higher. But I don't know if I used my veto yet, so I'll pass it on to Mac.
One of your 2 vetoes, by the way.
You have 2 vetoes. Remember, you have 2.
Yeah. But I want.
He's going to veto. Anarchy. He's going to veto both of. I think it's my second picks. But whatever I make. Nope, you don't want that. Psych. So no. For me, I actually had him right around the spot as well. I think this is fine. I think he is, again, is it the Adel Taarabt syndrome where you're the best player on the team because you're getting all the goals and the assists because everyone else is ass, but everything has to go through you. So then you're getting that. It's kind of like in terms of like Gilbert Arenas of NBA basketball. Yeah, he scored 30 points a game, but did he ever make it out of the first round? Probably not. No. Or like the Carmelo Anthony, same thing. So it'll be very interesting to see if there's better players around them, how good of a player he is. But that does not discredit how much of an impact he did have for Chelsea, because without him, again, they finished sixth in the Premier League. I think they're well below that if he was still playing for Manchester City. Funny part is, if he was still for Man City, I think he scored more goals this year than he would have played games for Man City this year.
Don't disagree with that. And like one other thing is, of course, he's 22 years old, and amongst a very young squad at Chelsea, and really took the reins and stepped up there, and definitely was the best player. So have to go there for Cole Palmer. So Mac, who is your 8th pick?
I'm going to swing and go back to who I think who was the best defender this year. I know it's a little bit out there. I'm going to go for Virgil van Dijk. I had him. Reason being, the reason why, and this is the argument between him and Saliba for me, I had Van Dijk much higher because I think Van Dijk has one of the most difficult jobs in football in terms of what he has to play with. Andy Robertson this year has been injured, so if not, Simicast is the one playing beside you. And I know he's probably a below-average backup left back, and he either has often injured Matip or a child in Kwanzaa or Konate, who's I definitely think he's probably a little bit overrated. And then again, probably one of the worst defensive right backs we've seen in quite some time, Trent. But amazing football overall. So what he has on his shoulders with Alisson to even bring a competent defensive unit to Liverpool, I think it speaks volumes of his impact. Whereas I think for Saliba, he has a quality center half beside him. He has Ben White, who I think is an argument for the best wide back this season. And whoever played left back for Arsenal was at least not a negative, other than Zinchenko, in my opinion. So again, I think in terms of the weight you have to carry on your shoulders, in terms of valuable, where if Van Dijk is injured at all, Liverpool are not in a Champions League position. Whereas I think if Saliba had missed a couple of games, yes, Arsenal aren't in title race, but did they finish top 4? Absolutely. So for me, even though I can see the argument either way, and it does flip, and I did have some separation on them, but it was very fine margins between those two players. But I actually had Van Dijk higher. I should have taken Saliba here, but Ray, I know you'll take him later, so it's fine.
Okay. I'm surprised that another Liverpool player made it in the, I guess, top 10 here. I'm not mad at it. Gio, do you have any thoughts before you make your own choice?
I don't like that there's another Liverpool player here. It's not that I don't like Liverpool. I just don't think, was he really stand out?
That's fair.
So wait, but then the conversation is we're going to have 2 Newcastle players in the list. They finished 7th. There are not going to be 2 Liverpool players in the list who finished 3rd?
I mean,
again, up to you. If you use your veto, I'll take this Saliba, so that's fine.
I hear you.
Going right now.
I hear you. But for their aspirations to finish 3rd and to let it go,
Fair.
I'm gonna have to use my veto here. I don't.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Fair enough. If that's the case, then again, it makes my job simple. I'll take William Saliba here. He was lower on my list. I know this is pushing him up, and it's probably going to knock off a player that I actually have higher on my list off it totally. But again, it's William Saliba, so it's worth it. I'll take it.
All right, then, unless you want to veto that, Gio, it's your turn. Your turn to pick your 7th player.
7th player. Here we go, boys. Are you ready for this one? I don't think you're ready for this one.
I'm gonna pry veto out of one of you.
Ray doesn't have a veto. I'm the only one left. And play the game real. Okay? Don't just try to get vetoes out.
No. I think
hero or something. What are we doing?
No. I think this player is well deserving of this spot.
Okay.
And I think Ray was actually one of his biggest fans this season. It actually goes to a newly promoted Champions League side. I'm going to give my 7th spot to Mr. Ollie Watkins, who was quite phenomenal this year. Obviously, a bounce back year for him, and for him to be as consistent as he was with the players that they have to secure a Champions League spot, I think it speaks for itself. Was mine and Mac's dark horse team, and they secured it. So
Obviously, they got shellacked 5-0 by Crystal Palace in the last game of the season, but that's beyond the point. Ollie Watkins is my number 7 spot.
Fantastic, fantastic. I have no choice, no complaints because I have no veto, but also no complaints because that would have been one of my choices as well. Mac?
Absolutely. Same. Again, he led his team in goals and assists, led the Premier League in assists, quality season. I think it's very interesting to see if he was on a different team, would he be this successful? Because his job is very simple. Just play on the break, get in behind the lines, and everyone's feeding you kind of low-end crosses for you to be able to deal with. And he does that exceptionally well. So his job as a striker, what he's growing into, phenomenal.
Okay, well, that wraps up our 7th pick. We're going to take one last break here, guys, and then we'll be back covering our top 6 picks. So stay with us, guys. Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We're going to continue now with our top 6 picks. I just want to give you guys a heads up that we have 2 vetoes remaining. Mac has 1 and Gio has 1. Gio, now you are picking the 6th player. And if we had a lot of same picks here, so if we have that same mind, I think you're going to go towards another attacker, but I'll let you cook here.
Yeah. Obviously, he's growing. He's a young lad. I think he still has a lot to learn in terms of how he can utilize himself in the Premier League. But I have a Mr. Erling Haaland at number 6. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's. Do you want to click any more on him or?
No. I think obviously we know his out and out speed and how he likes to play out in the open space, balls dumped in, and for him to chase. But I think he needs to obviously take advantage of his size and get more clinical within that 6-yard box, and maybe learn the hold up play a little better. Like a Romelu Lukaku, who is quite good at the hold up play. Obviously hasn't had great stints in the Premier League, but his hold-up play is quite exceptional. So, kind of pick strikers of his build and kind of add that to his game. But I think for the misses he's had, it's kind of brought him down in the season. He should have quite a bit more goals. So, yeah, I think 6 is a very, very fair spot for Mr. Erling Haaland.
That is crazy because I'm like, oh, yeah, forgot about Erling Haaland. I didn't even have him in my top 15. 27 goals and won the Golden Boot again. So even after spending at least a couple of game weeks out through injury, and so gotta give it to Gio. That's a great pick there. Mac, unless you're not vetoing it,
I want to cook on that a little bit, if it's okay for Haaland specifically. This is weird. We all feel let down from Haaland, and he scored 27 goals, which again destroys most records. And I think the reason we can look at that is as expected goals this year is 29, he scored 27. Started 29 games. So he had an expected goal of 1 goal per game, shot a little bit underneath that. Last year, he started 33 games, expected goals of 28, scored 36. So you can just feel the levels of clinical in those moments where he didn't scuff as many chances as he did this year. So even though he did play fewer games, scored fewer goals, it's mostly because of that clinical feeling that we all had last year of him, where on that breakaway, on that turn, post happens, easy money for him. This year, not so much. I wouldn't be surprised if next year it flips back over once again.
Okay. Mac, you are now the 5th pick. Let you cook there.
Okay, so for me, this is really tough because I think there's a clear 4. I think there's 4 top players, and I think it's clear and obvious to me, at the very least. And you both have mentioned that you're planning to take Alexander Isak, who for me is not fitting in this spot. But I can't risk him going high because I don't think he's been a top 4 player in this league. I don't want to take him. He was 11th on my list. Again, that's for me. That's the separator. But I'll have to take him because he's not in my top 4. So unfortunately, I have to take Alexander Isak. Again, quality player. No disrespect to him whatsoever. I think if you ask me who the second best striker this year is, it wasn't him, it was Watkins. He's clearly 3rd for me. But I think if there's an argument between the two, if you who would you rather have on your team? Who would you rather build your team around? But I think Watkins had a better season. Isak, I think, is a better player, though, slightly. And I think he could do more in terms of the creative sense, being able to take players one-on-one versus to kind of just a consistent goal threat, which Watkins has been this year. So yeah, I'll take Isak because I have no choice.
Hey, I'm glad that we forced you into that because that was my fifth pick. It checks out for me perfectly well, and I think, like Max said, we have the same kind of four next players. But other than that, Isak, I think he just has it all. Can be sort of the next big thing in the Premier League in terms of that striker position if he does stay at Newcastle or he makes a move somewhere else. So, yeah, not much else to say. Gio, unless you have anything else, I'll go with my fourth pick.
Go for it, brother.
All right, so my fourth and third picks, I think I'm definitely going to get a veto here from Mac, are both Arsenal players. Now, my fourth pick, surprisingly, I actually had him, and we're going to cover this in our future podcast when we do our end of season review of our predictions. I had him as my player of the season, though he has had some dips in forms and injuries throughout the season. So Arsenal star boy, Bukayo Saka, I'm going to have to put him in fourth. 16 goals, 9 assists, still in the Premier League. Just getting better and better and adding things to his game as well. Not just, of course, we know that he can beat his man, go around and create for his team, but also he can put it on his right foot and smash it near post against the keeper. He can definitely, as we've seen multiple times, and most recently against Spurs, can put it on his left foot, cut inside a very old Davies, and sort of curl it past the keeper. Can do a lot, and I think will just keep growing as the face of the league again. Just been overshadowed by another fellow Englishman this season, but Bukayo Saka for me is pick number 4. I'm gonna toss it to you first, Mac. Do you have any words on Saka?
Absolutely love him. Definitely the definition of star boy. I think if we look at what he's been growing year over year, consistently improving, it's scary to think about. He's still, I think he's 22 now. He turned 22 during the season. So he's going into the season next year as a 22-year-old, having already played for Arsenal in the Premier League since he was 17. Just the amount of games under his belt in terms of what he's been able to produce season in, season out, as well as improve in every opportunity. And I think even though there's a lot of talk of Cole Palmer, I don't think there is a question who the starting right wing position would be for Southgate for England. I think he in every aspect of a footballer from winger, he gives you at the very least an 8 out of 10. He can score goals, he can create, he can defend, he can press. There's nothing you want from a footballer more than what you kind of get out of him. The question though is that does he have that extra level of greatness where we've seen a couple of worldly goals from him in certain moments? Will he grow into that? Maybe. But even if he stays as he is now, he'll go down as a great Premier League winger, one of the best.
Okay, Gio, any word on, or do you want to use your veto on my fourth pick, or what do you think?
No arguments. He's learned a lot from all the great players he's surrounded by, and obviously, one thing he did learn from a Manchester United player probably during an England camp is the I get subbed off and I have to limp off. That's the classic Marcus Rashford, if y'all didn't know. So he definitely picked that up from him. They probably shared a bunk at England camp. But yeah, no, he is. If I was Arsenal, if I was, if I was management ownership, I'm doing everything in my power to keep him happy for as long as possible, because he is wanted by everyone. Any club in this world right now, if given the opportunity, would sign him. So that kind of really speaks for itself. Any club would sign any of these top 4 players that we have, but given his age, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure. Then let me cook with my other Arsenal player as my third pick for, I guess, player of the season.
Veto.
All right. Then, Gio, I'm going to have you help me out with that one.
No worries. We got
my next pick is going to have to be... you're going to veto anyway, so I'm going to pick Rodri as my number 3. He, I think, was my number 2 pick. I just think Rodri, with his ability to dominate games, we've gone over and over again, Gio, how he's been able to not just do things on the defensive end, but come up in big big moments on the offensive end. 74 matches across Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, and League Cup. Unbeaten, winning 58 and drawing 16. That in itself is a crazy stat that just puts him up there. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go with Rodri since Mac is vetoing my Declan Rice pick. Gio, do you have anything to say to that?
You see what I've done here?
Why? I'm just curious as to why you just didn't pick Declan Rice.
I vetoed it.
And he vetoed it.
Oh, wait. So you picked...
I picked Rice.
He picked Rice. I vetoed it, so he can't pick Rice. So he has to choose between the other two players and all of our top threes. He has that choice, and then I'll have the choice of who to pick next. And then Gio, if you veto that only leaves him in first place. I've won. I'm sorry. No,
hey, man.
How do you feel about Rodri? Let's focus on. Let's celebrate Rodri.
I definitely don't think he deserves third. I think he obviously deserves second. I don't think Declan Rice is deserving a second. I think he's getting that England vote right now. Not first. He's not getting first. Relax. He wishes he can get first. Much like the table. But the fact of the matter is, Rodri is that difference maker, and he always has been that difference maker. Not to say that Declan Rice isn't, but Rodri, again, stepping up. And we've stressed this time and time again. The two players that have stepped up for Man City immensely have been Phil Foden and Rodri. In the when they've missed KDB, when they've missed Gundogan from last season. Who are these players to step up? Not only is Rodri a midfielder that sits a little deeper, he's banging in goals too. So he's doing what you need on the defensive end, and then he's doing what you need on the offensive end, scoring clutch goals at that. So having him third is unfortunate.
Disrespectful,
bro, so disrespectful. But we're gonna have to let Mac have this one. So yeah, I think he'll unhappily sit at number 3.
Yeah. So I'm done with my pick. So Mac goes.
I want to be able to talk about Rodri too, because I think he's a quality player. Just so happened, it's just unfortunate. The game's the game. He finishes third. Who had control over that? But the point being, I think it's very interesting. Again, the easy stat that everyone always talks about. The last time he lost a Premier League game was in February 2023 at Tottenham Hotspur, and those fucks couldn't help us this time. Beat them again this time, but whatever. It is what it is. But in terms of that streak, in terms of what he's able to do, I think, again, if he played all 38 games because he was injured, again, if we just map out what generally was done, City would have won the title by quite a bit more. And what Gio talked about, the underrated thing that's, I think, missed a lot of people, is his contributions in terms of goals. In the Premier League, he was 4th for Manchester City. It was Haaland, Foden, Alvarez, and then Rodri with 8 goals. And in terms of assists, he was actually 2nd behind Kevin De Bruyne. So if you just look at that in terms of him able to do everything, as a holding midfielder, phenomenal. And I would argue he is one of the best, if not the best, in his position. But unfortunately, like you guys said, he finishes third.
Then, of course, Mac, you'll have to go with pick number 2.
So I could pick Foden here just to let Gio veto, but I'm not going to do that because I feel like that ruins the spirit of the game. I'm not that type of guy. So with the spirit of the game, I would take Declan Rice, who for me, even though there's a lot of arguments made about like Cole Palmer, other players that come to the Premier League, I think he has been the signing of the season in terms of the initial conversation after a couple games where Arsenal fans, their first thought was, they feel like they got him a bargain from West Ham considering the amount that they paid for him and the amount of impact that he had, where he is the best of what you want as an 8 in a lot of ways and the best of what you want as a 6, where you don't know which position to play him in because he has such a great deal of qualities in both. And what he did from Arsenal was last year, it felt like, I think we can all confidently say, we never felt like they were going to win the Premier League. They could have gotten close. There's such a degree of quality difference between Arsenal and Man City that they never felt close enough. But just the signing of Declan Rice this year, for me, closes that gap where they were firmly in the conversation and they didn't win it, but they're very, very close. And that difference of going from great to elite is the hardest jump any team can make. And by just signing one player in the midfield, Arsenal did that. And that's why, even though, unfortunate just how the game worked out, he landed second, and for me, he'd be second.
Yeah, I guess quickly on that, goes back to Mac. You have to remind me, over 100 million in the past summer, but that's something that no one's talking about because of how well he's adjusted. And yeah, you definitely now look at that as a starting spot that it picks itself, whether it is for the Arsenal club or the England national squad. Really, no other thing I can add. Mac has kind of covered it all. Gio, I'm gonna let you cook on Rice before I guess you can pick your last pick.
Cook Rice, get it? But no, I think he, as much as we didn't love this pick, I think he is quite deserving to be up in this realm of top players of the Premier League. Contribution wise, he scored timely goals. He scored big goals to seal the deal. Even most notably for me, at least, early on in the season when he scored against Man U to kind of seal it and sent Dallo flying. That was more so Gabriel. But again, this Arsenal team is so close to it and it being titles, and they're maybe one or two players away. Adding a couple more depth players to really hone in and kind of match that City level. They're very close. On a weekly basis, they're going to compete with City. Now it's going to come down to the kind of what Rodri referred to when Ray dropped the video is kind of that winning mentality that every point matters. Obviously, every point matters, but they're so young. They still have so much to learn. They have so much. Once they experience the winning feeling of what it takes, they're going to understand it. And once they get another trophy under the belt, or once they do get a trophy under the belt, they're going to know what that means. So it's a matter of time before this Arsenal club starts dragging the trophies in by the truckload. And one person who's going to be very the biggest contribution could be Declan Rice, apart from Bukayo Saka, of course.
Of course. Then, Gio, that leaves us with your number one pick.
It is. Wait, who saw the veto?
I have veto.
Oh, fuck.
No,
Wait, the veto. You're the only one with veto, so you can only veto yourself. But
so I can troll anyone right now.
Come on.
I can troll anyone.
Yeah, that's right.
Andre Onana. I'm joking. Goes to the blue side of Man City. We all know what I'm going to say, and that is Philip Foden, who is a monster. I think throughout the season, we were also focused on Rodri and what he did because he did so much offensively and defensively. But the way Phil Foden is the connection point between the midfield and the offense really running through him is amazing. And seeing him work, seeing him cut through the defenders, providing assist, and then him moving without the ball. I think everything was just so crucial for Man City's success this season that they even forgot about Gundogan once Rodri and Phil Foden kind of hit their stride. They didn't need him. They just needed to understand that this is life without him. How are we going to do this? And they did it. And they're very well deserving of the Premier League title.
Yeah, the biggest compliment I have for Phil Foden, I think you're going to cook Mac in terms of some stats, is really we were thinking how there's 2 points to this. How will City replace Kevin De Bruyne when he eventually leaves? There's big talks of him joining potentially the MLS now. And that's kind of crazy to me, but I wouldn't be upset if I'm a Man City fan because I know that Phil Foden is there and can take those reins. My second thing would be when Guardiola leaves, you're thinking Man City are going to drop significantly, but with a player like Phil Foden there, if he does stay and if he does have the likes of Haaland and other quality players around him, I do think that they'll continue to challenge for titles. So that's my biggest compliment to Phil Foden. I'm going to let you cook on that, Mac.
I think if you're looking at a creative sense, and what you both had highlighted is it's really the quality he brings when you think about the players that are missing. Kevin De Bruyne, I think, is in the argument for the best Premier League midfielder of all time. And he was gone for 4 months of the season, and they didn't skip a beat. And that was predominantly because Phil Foden. You had a down year from Holland. You had really Julian Alvarez had a good start, but didn't kind of fiddle towards the end of the season. A lot of the other signings didn't work well. Doku had some flashes. Mateus Nunes looked like a little piece of ass. Like there wasn't too much going when you look at the whole Man City lineup where, hey, we see a consistent threat game in, week out as a goal threat. So it was left to Phil Foden in a lot of ways. I think it just is its consistency of creating opportunities. It is so vital in terms of what he's been able to do this season. And the scoring goals, tied for fourth in the Premier League with 19. This is by far the most he's ever scored in the Premier League. Previous to this was 11. So there's always been talk of, is he just like snatching at his potential? He's potential. But this is the first time where you kind of feel like, no, this is him. And I think off the pod, I think Ray and I was posing this question is he already the second best midfielder for Manchester City behind Kevin De Bruyne? Is he better than David Silva as of right now? Is he better than Bernardo Silva as of right now? Is he better than Rodri as of right now? I think that's a fair shout. Even though it's just the scary part is, again, with a lot of these players are talking about, he's still so young. He's 23, not close to his potential. So he's only going to keep getting better. I think the only kind of nail left in his coffin that he has to be able to figure out to be able to kind of staple in a complete career is how does he fit into the England lineup? It'll be interesting in the Euros. Hopefully he gets a better manager one day and play him properly. But that's neither here nor there. In the Premier League, he's world class. And I definitely think he's deserving of the first pick. Just slightly above Declan Rice.
Well, there you guys have it. Those are our 15 picks. I'll run it through again just one more time. On pick 15, I picked Mohamed Kudus. Mac picked Dominic Solanke for the 14th pick. 13th pick went to Gio. He picked Michael Olise. 12th pick, Gio picked Anthony Gordon. 11th pick, Mac picked Odegaard. 10th, I picked Salah. 9th, I picked Cole Palmer. 8th, Mac picked Saliba. 7th, Gio picked Watkins. Then Gio went again with 6th pick, picking Holland. 5th pick went to Mac, and he picked Isaac because he had to. 4th pick, I chose Saka. 3rd pick, I was forced into picking Rodri. Mac, you picked Declan Rice at number 2, and Gio, of course, finished it off with Phil Foden there. So there you guys have it. Our draft for sort of top 15 players of the season. This concludes our podcast for today. If you guys like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. That's at @house_of_footy. If you have, please also leave us a comment on our YouTube channel if you think we made a good pick, bad pick, what you thought of our overall picks as well. And also, if you have any suggestions or general banter, get in touch with us via email as well, houseoffooty@hotmail.com. Next time you hear from us will be sometime before the weekend ends when we review the FA Cup final taking place this weekend. But until then, thank you, Gio, for joining us.
I'm sorry, Rodri. I did you wrong.
Thank you, Mac.
Peace out.
See you guys soon.